Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the what if. For 3 days Naruto had been in a foul mood. Nimari had tried to mentally bring herself to confront Naruto for 3 days about his true identity as Kurama, but it was harder than anyone could imagine. Naruto killed 11, actually a total of 12 when counting Orochimaru, people now. As a hero, Nimari needed to confront him and bring him to justice for his actions. At the same time, it was legitimate self-defense as well since his opponents had committed murder on national TV and attacked students. Bakugo and Tamaki had been sent to the hospital for their bullet wounds, and Mirko was in intensive care for her many broken bones and both internal and external. Mirko wouldn't be able to return to hero work for at least 7 weeks as she recovered, and the wounds were too extensive for even Recovery Girl to use her quirk to heal away without killing Mirko from the stamina drain of it all. She would need light physical therapy, since she needed surgery to remove bone fragments from her spine. Naruto, at least legally speaking, couldn't be punished for the murders he committed since it was a legit act of self-defense. The same with Orochimaru. He's Kurama, and he killed. At the same time, he did it to protect the children of Japan. He did something that has been weighing on his mind so heavily. How can I even bring this up to him? Nimari bit her lip as she watched Naruto looking at the news on the TV. Kurama had been an icon villain in the news. Now there was a massive controversy. Kurama finally shows true colors. Kurama, anti-hero or villain? Kurama, the villain we need. Hero to children, but villain to heroes. The people of Japan were split in their views of Kurama at the moment, just like she herself was conflicted. The news media as well were extremely conflicted. The Kurama 11 had gone on a hunt and put many heroes in critical condition. They stripped, beat, and humiliated the famous hero Mirko on national TV, killed a child and critically injured students as well. The deaths of those crazed villains was something many in the public saw as justice, something Kurama needed to be praised for. The other half of the coin. Many people saw Kurama's actions as needlessly cruel towards the mentally unstable, stating it wasn't Kurama's job to control the villain population. Many of the older generation saw Kurama's threat to villains, and his actions, as unforgivable since he had set an example of the Kurama 11. So, whatcha watching there kiddo? News. Naruto's answer was swift and simple, and she sat down next to him on the couch. She twitched and fidgeted a little, and thought of how she could bring up the conversation. It's still all about Kurama killing the Kurama 11. Naruto stated with his eyes showing a hint of the rage that had been seen in Kurama's eyes a few days previously. The sports festival had been cancelled, and nobody even dared to stand in Kurama's way as he walked out of the stadium. And how do you feel about that? Nimari asked, seeing this as her way to bring up the topic. The Kurama 11 should be the only people that Kurama ever has to do this to. I hope that Kurama is never forced to kill again, and this serves as a lesson to other villains that children are off limits. Naruto's voice held a hint of sadness and guilt to it. Nimari sighed in relief. Naruto felt horrible that he had to take people's lives, but while he felt guilt, it was clear he didn't regret what he did either. He had a guilty conscience over what he did, but she could tell that he would do it again if he needed to. It seemed that Kurama's message had been mostly to villains, since heroes didn't attack children. Still, she found relief in the fact that he was conflicted over his own actions when he was in a cold rage. It meant he was a good person at heart. I see. Well, if you ever need to talk about your feelings. I know that little girl was one of your orphans. How is the family doing? Nimari asked, and she saw Naruto's fist grip whiten his knuckles. Devastated. They lost their children. No parent would ever feel good about losing their child, adopted or not. They were completely broken. They lost their only daughter. I hope other villains learn from this. I really do. Naruto gripped his fists together so tightly that his fingernails were digging into his skin. Nimari took a deep breath. Well, I do too. Kurama did something horrible by killing the Kurama 11, but I suppose this one time it could be classified as self-defense and justified. It was a hostage situation, and Kurama did what he needed to do to keep the hostages alive. Let's hope Kurama never needs to do this again. Nimari made a choice as she spoke. Naruto was her son. She was Midnight the hero, but even before she was a hero, She was now this boy's mother. She was Nimari, and this was her son Naruto. She was going to keep his villain status a secret, and she wouldn't even bring it up to Naruto until she needed to. Naruto wasn't some crazed killer or a villain who was always out for blood. This particular time his decisions had been guided by rage and a sense of danger. Now, we would like to introduce a special guest. Danzo Shimura, local politician, and his words on the subject. A wrinkled old man sat down next to the news reporter. Thank you. In the past, I've brought forth bills to dismantle this hero system and institute a far more efficient way of getting rid of villains. These events with Kurama show that the heroes are growing lax and weak, while the villains are getting stronger. Do you not agree? Who the hell is this guy? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, since he had never heard of Thighs Dude before. Nimari groaned in annoyance. Danzo Shimura, an old crackpot with a vendetta against heroes. He's always proposing far harsher restrictions on heroes. He tried to propose a bill that would require all heroes to wear a standardized uniform. He's as close to a legal villain as it gets with how harshly he tries to take down heroes. Nimari could honestly saw she hated politics with a passion. She just wanted to be a hero, maybe get a small harem of cute boys to tease, and be surrounded by beautiful men who would take care of her every need, and be a good mother to her son. This guy made a few of those things very hard for her. Shimura, Naruto questioned. I don't deny that heroes, in the past, have helped to regulate and control the growth of villainy across Japan. Still, I don't believe I need to explain my views on the matter. Heroes are given far too much freedom to use their quirks for good, and because of that freedom they have become inefficient in their duties. This Kurama incident. Kurama incident. Call it the Kurama 11 incident. Naruto groaned under his breath. He hadn't been the one who decided to kill a child or take hostages at the sports festival. Shows that villains on par with our best heroes are out there. Kurama showed that he has access to several quirks, making identifying him using the quirk registry impossible. We don't have a hero who could catch him, and more villains will grow to become more powerful than the heroes. I believe it's time for a change for the better. Danzo spoke into the camera, his face never once changing from its harsh expression. His smile was one of power, somebody who was doing what he was doing to take power from somebody else. What can you propose better than our current hero system? Now, while I would like to abolish the hero system in its entirety eventually. Right now I have had a lab I work closely with develop machines that should be capable of catching villains with a far higher catch rate than heroes. Danzo explained without revealing too much too soon. He waited for the reporter to give him his next question, where more would be revealed. Robots. Robots might have intelligence these days, but robots aren't strong or intelligent enough to ever challenge proper villains. The most intelligent robots were small robot bodies with no battle power. Nimari couldn't see where this was going. No machine could match the better villains out there. Automated numerous bionic unifiers. These robots, called the Anbu, will have a linked intelligence that allow them to observe, study, and capture any villain they go up against. They have more intelligence than humans, no emotions, and are completely loyal to humanity. These machines are designed with ways to counter common quirk types, and several uncommon ones. I've already got 350 of them built and programmed. Danzo explained with a more grim smile on his face. Do they work? Of course not. Nimari scoffed. Not machine could do her job better than her. They need to. With villains like Kurama out there and operating in the open, these so-called heroes who protect us just don't cut it anymore. They are human, and humans make mistakes that let villains escape. With my Anbu, we can lower the total villain percentage all the way down to less than 1% in a short period of time. Nimari scoffed again. Danzo pressed a button on his cane, and a floating sphere robot hovered towards the camera and floated in front of it. The Anbu. It was a clique robot with a perfectly round metal shell to it. It hovered above the ground, and while the metal surrounding it was pitch black, it had 6 holes in the front and panels on either side of it. Power lines ran across the outside surface of the sphere machine, and it had visible sensors on the top, front, bottom, sides, and back to allow it to see from all directions. Wow, and how do they work? I took the human element away from humans, studied it, and placed a perfected form of humanity into these machines. This is the future. a future where heroes aren't needed anymore, and we can have a peaceful Japan. Click. Naruto turned the TV off. I think I'm going to go lay down, Naruto told Nemuri, and she nodded her head sadly. If Momo comes, tell her she can wake me up. Naruto asked his mother a request, and she nodded again. She didn't expect Naruto to be all smile and sunshine for a while. He was still mourning the loss of one of the children he helped to raise after all. She had never been on his level. She had never once been his equal. She had never had a chance against him. The Kurama 11. They absolutely destroyed me. Yet Kurama, who I didn't even know could fight, he destroyed them even more easily. Rumi thought as she stared up at the hospital ceiling with her eyes slightly glazed over. Her body was bandaged and her legs were in casts, as were her arms in slings. She could barely move out of bed without a nurse's help, and overall she had been rendered more pathetic than even the average civilian. Any villain could easily kill her right now, and she would be unable to fight back at all. Not that she would even try to fight back. Did you know that Kurama had multiple quirks? He never told me, he never even showed me a fraction of what he could do. Rumi thought as she dismissed the question asked of her. Since it was well known that she was the hero with the best relationship with Kurama, other heroes were pestering her about Kurama at the moment. Including a rather stressed All Might. Mirko. Toshinori. She didn't know. Nana stated as she put a hand on Toshinori's shoulder, to stop him from pestering the woman any further. Things were different now, as much as she approved of Kurama as a villain, and while she was conflicted about what he did in the stadium, the fact remains he had the quirk of her greatest enemy. She hated herself for thinking it, but he was now different in her eyes. She needed to make sure that he wouldn't become the next All for One. I'm a fool, an idiot. I'm a naive fool. Rumi couldn't even roll onto her side and turn away from the two heroes who were sitting next to her bed. To those next to her, her words didn't make much sense. She had tears in her eyes, the bitter sting of betrayal was still so very fresh in her mind. She shouldn't feel this way. She did though. You're a worthy hero, you didn't do anything wrong. You wouldn't understand, this isn't about being a hero. I thought I was close to him. I thought that we had something special, that we were closer in so many ways than anyone else. I barely knew anything, the gap between us. I was too foolish to see how large it was. Rumi started to cry more earnestly. Toshinori was a little shocked, since comforting other heroes wasn't something he knew how to do nearly as well as others. Nana understood what the hero Mirko was sad about, but more than that, she understood what the woman Rumi was heartbroken over. You aren't a fool, loving somebody isn't wrong. Even in the stadium, he admitted that you were important to him personally. Kurama is a good person. I think he's a good person. Nana raised a hand to silence Toshinori. He wasn't going to argue. He's a good person, but he has a power that is very dangerous. Now we know that he knows how to use a very bad quirk, and we're afraid it could corrupt him. The other day, Kurama was overtaken by pure rage. While his actions are unforgivable by the law, they are understandable. You weren't a fool, but we do need you to tell us anything you know. Toshinori did end up finding good words to comfort Mirko. He wasn't completely useless at emotional bonding with people, or helping them. Rumi gave a tearful smile. I'm a fool, because even after seeing the gap between us. I still love him. He kept so much from me, his identity, his real power, so much. And even after these secrets my heart can't hate him. Rumi spoke, hating herself more than anyone else since her current predicament was all her fault. All this inner conflict was because she refused to let go of her feelings, because she was unable to allow herself to separate herself from them. I was defeated, my body stripped naked, and my humiliation shown on national TV. I was held hostage too. The world saw me, the great Mirko, physical and emotionally destroyed. Rumi listed just some of the ways that she had been crushed. All of that happened, and she still refused to let go of her love. She wanted to stop loving him so much, but her heart wasn't having any of it. Toshinori didn't know what to say to that. He had been broken before to such a level, 3 times in his life. The first time when he thought that All for One had murdered his master, though Orochimaru had saved her and enslaved her. He had been injured, but not as badly as Mirko. In his fight with All for One, he had been injured to such a degree that his body had never recovered from it. Even now he could only maintain his quirk for a full hour before he couldn't use it for the rest of the day. The third time he had been emotionally broken by Orochimaru, when he had summoned his master to fight him. He had never experienced both at the same time, and had it shown to the entire world, like what happened to Mirko when she experienced her lowest moments in life. The quirk he used is All for One. It lets him take the quirks of others by touching their foreheads. All Might was gravely injured by the original possessor of that quirk, and I was killed. Were it not for Orochimaru and Kurama, I wouldn't be here today. I understand why you want to defend him, and why you feel so betrayed. We are not his enemies. We want to help him. Nana explained more of the situation to Rumi, who deserved the truth to some degree. Toshinori looked at Nana as if she were crazy, before he sighed and nodded his head. They weren't Kurama's enemies, they just wanted to capture him to help him. Kurama needs to repent for the lives he took, even though his actions were understandable. He also needs to be watched to make sure he never used that quirk for evil. Sadly, I don't think even Tartarus could hold him. Other than killing Kurama, we have no way to really bring him to justice. All Might tried to comfort the hero Mirko. She glanced at him, before she looked at Nana. The tightest security jail in the world, Tartarus, capable of holding pretty much any villain in the world. All Might was giving Kurama the highest of praise by stating that he didn't believe the jail could hold Kurama. Tartarus? Nana asked with a tilted head. A super prison. Nobody has ever escaped, but Kurama would be the first. If All for One gave his quirk to Kurama, that means he sees in Kurama more potential than even himself. This is also the man who killed Orochimaru. Please, Mirko, do you have no information that could help us? All Might asked her, and she bit her lips. Now they were asking for even more personal information about Kurama that she did have. Quote. You know who he is? Rumi asked as she looked at Nana's eyes. Nana was a liar. She was pretending that she needed to know information about Kurama, but she already knew his real identity. Those eyes told her everything, and the way the woman seemed even more guilty proved it to her. Of course she doesn't. I do, but I can't tell any information myself. He saved my life, he saved me from hell, and his blood flows through my veins. Even if I wanted to, every time I try to say who he is, my body freezes up. I get flashes and memories of my time in Orochimaru, and I can't speak. Nana admitted, and her own student seemed a little betrayed by her words. He was understanding though, when he considered what she had gone through to get to that point. She most of her life undergoing mental and physical torture inside of Orochimaru, she couldn't say a word against her savior without being forced to relive everything she went through. I'm not going to betray him. I wouldn't be able to face him honestly if I did. Before I am the hero Mirko, I am the woman Rumi. Anyway, I'm not a hero anymore. Rumi stated as she glanced at the table next to her hospital bed. All Might looked at her in shock. They revoked your license. All Might couldn't believe such an amazing hero had been fired by the government. Nana felt sympathy. No, I just quit. I love being a hero, but I'm done. This showed me that I can't go any further than this, and I'll never be the same again. Even after I finish my physical therapy, the doctors say I won't be nearly as strong as before. Not to mention I was stripped and broken in front of a national audience. You don't recover from that. Rumi stared at the ceiling, and now her broken eyes made even more sense. She had quit being a hero altogether, because this event had truly been the end of her career. Stripped, beaten, broken, emotionally destroyed, and forced to be rescued by a villain that the world knew she had romantic intentions for. Her injuries had been career-ending. Never be the same. I'm sure that with recovery girl. I can't have children now. Oh, I'm so sorry. Nana felt tears grow in her own eyes when she heard that. That was more than enough reason for somebody to give up being a hero. Bone fragments had been lodged into my ovaries, and they needed to be removed. They left my womb, but with no eggs. I can never have my own children. Rumi was just broken when she said it. She had been informed of her situation after she woke up from her surgery, and the doctors had been very kind when explaining all her options for the future. She didn't have the strength left in her to cry over this. She was just done. She was happy that Kurama murdered the Kurama 11, because of them she had lost everything. She would have killed them herself if she had learned what they had done to her before that point. She was even pissed that she wasn't the person to kill them, that revenge was forever out of her reach. Her career as a hero was over. Her future as a mother was almost non-existent. Even her revenge was forever out of her grasp. She was just done. You might not be as strong as before, but you can still be amazing again. I never had any sidekicks, and I always did everything alone. Unlike all of you, these months of physical therapy will take me out of the top 10. I'm always getting injured on the job. With my body as it will be, I'll keep getting weaker and weaker. Until I die a pathetic death as a forgotten hero. Rumi had put some thought into this, and she spoke of her own future tragic death with certainty. She could see herself being murdered in the future as all of her injuries started to pile up. I'm stupid, but I'm not retarded. I know my body better than anyone, and I'm not capable of recovering from this and becoming the same Mirko as before. So, just leave me alone. Rumi glanced at them with finality. She was done being a hero. This was the end of Mirko. 1. Naruto's All for One. Yes, Naruto has All for One, but unlike All for One he does have a moral compass. Naruto having All for One is actually somewhat balanced because he understands the morals behind stealing quirks from people, and he won't just collect quirks to get stronger. Not to mention, Naruto does not know how to activate it at will just yet. 1. He stole his mother's quirk when he was a baby by accident, and he was able to use it because his rage brought out that ability, and Naruto has subconsciously used her powers in combination with his toad quirk. He has an inherited understanding of that quirk. 2. Naruto knew how the Rasengan quirk worked, because He was the one who helped the girl learn how to control it, since she was a child who stayed at his orphanage. He stole her quirk out of rage and instinct. 2. Momo vs Mirko for pairing. Stop asking. Sit back, enjoy the story, and wait to see who wins out in the end. You'll get no spoilers from me. The fun in reading the story's pairing isn't to know who wins in the end, and watch it happen. The fun is reading the story, not knowing who will win, and being surprised by the end pairing. Stop sending me PMs asking about Mirko vs Momo, I'll either ignore you or tell you to read the story. I enjoy watching fans have fun reading a story, and giving me their theories and reasons why they support certain pairings. It's fun for me to see you guys reading this story and having fun trying to figure out what I have planned. 3. Mirko's injuries healing. It might happen, it might not happen. Eri is not the answer, since Naruto will not use All for One to take her quirk to heal Mirko, since using All for One on people can mentally break them and he would not do that to a living child. Eri, even in canon, has yet to learn or master her power, so it's unrealistic to rely on that for an answer to this. Naruto giving Mirko a regeneration quirk won't do anything either, since her wounds have already healed through surgery. Just like how All for One has a regeneration quirk, but is still missing half his face. If you get a regeneration quirk after the injuries have healed over, it doesn't fix what happened. Complete honesty, I'm also doing this to Mirko for another reason. Right now, Mirko is a broken woman and a broken person. I want to write her not only growing as a person, but finding a new dream and working towards it with all of her strength. I believe somebody who hits rock bottom, and losing everything, and rising back up to become a better person is something amazing. Sure, she might never be a pro hero again, but that doesn't mean she can't be somebody's hero either. Let's just say, I gave some hints as to what her future will hold for her last chapter. 4. Danzo Shimura and Nana Shimura. They have the same last name, but they aren't related to each other by blood or anything like that. Also, I've got to give congrats to the person who actually managed to guess what Danzo has powering his Anbu machines. While I don't plan on changing my plans just because they guessed correctly, it's very rare for somebody to guess what I plan to do so accurately. 5. The Tailed Beasts. Yes, I do plan on having Naruto develop a team of 8 other people who will be based on the Tailed Beasts. All of the members of this team have already been decided, and the team consists of some people that I feel would suit the personalities of each tailed beast best. I won't give away all of the names, but just because I want to really stir up some hype, I'll reveal 2 names of the group. Kurama. Naruto Uzumaki. Gyuki. Mystery. Chome. Mystery. Seiken. Mystery. Kokuo. Mystery. Son Goku. Maguma Iwata. Isobu. Mystery. Matabi. Momo Yaoyorozu. Shukaku. Shizo Makaguro. Hopefully this has cleared up a good number of misunderstandings. Okay then, Matabi. One of the biggest things about being a villain who values the innocent is being able to escape a hero without hurting them. Momo wasn't ready to hit the streets as a villain just yet, since as it were she was only about as skilled as the average pro hero. She had an amazing quirk, but she lacked the training and experience to make true use of her quirk in a professional setting as it were. Even during the arena event when the Kurama 11 attacked and were all killed, by him he should add, she had been completely unneeded despite the fact that she was ready to act the moment he signaled to her. "Why are you calling me that now?" Momo asked, since they were out of costume. They were just hanging out, training, in a park. "Well, we're in the woods right now and nobody is around. We can't be calling each other our real names, so I want you to be able to respond to Matabi even in escape, though you aren't wrong," Naruto stated as he raised his hands up. Momo was wearing a sports bra and gym shorts, and he was wearing a track suit so that they could pretend that they were just doing some after-school practice together if anyone saw them. Momo was a little different. "I didn't know you were good at hand-to-hand. I never have a reason to use it. I hate fighting and violence in general. What you saw the other day with those. I was really angry because they crossed a line," Naruto stated as he threw a couple of soft jabs at Momo. They wouldn't hurt her even if they connected, but they were thrown fast enough that they could knock the air out of her if they hit. She just needed to keep her eyes on them and dodge them, while holding a conversation. He hated violence and killing, but even he had a line that he didn't want crossed. If somebody crossed that line, then he wouldn't hesitate to do something he felt distaste for. Momo seemed to hesitate for a moment when she opened her mouth. "You know I killed Orochimaru, the world knew I killed him. But seeing murder with your own eyes is different, isn't it?" Naruto asked Momo, since he knew why she was hesitating. He had experienced it the first time he saw a person murdered in front of his eyes. When he had been training under Jiraiya, another villain had attacked them to get at Jiraiya, and the man killed the villain in cold blood. "You know, you can go back to the way things were if you want. You haven't really made your villain debut yet," Naruto offered her, and she frowned. She shook her head, and Naruto stopped his fist in front of her face, and she jerked back a little. His attacks never once touched her through their entire training. Whenever she would get hit he stopped the attack and threw the same attack at her so she could get practice dodging that speed of attack. You said you would kill them, and you did. I'm just shocked at how easy it was for you." Momo spoke softly as she ducked under a fist. Naruto chuckled. "We have quirks, this is the difference between heroes and villains, Momo. Heroes are required to hold back their quirks so they never kill unless it is completely needed. Villains don't have to hold back, but I do think holding back is a good trait." Naruto admitted he was guilty of doing the same thing as heroes in holding back the killing potential of his quirk. "You showed multiple quirks. Let's not talk about that. Before then I didn't even know I could do that. It raised a lot of questions in myself I don't want to think about." Naruto would rather nobody mention the fact that he had the all-for-one quirk inside of him. It raised a lot of questions inside of his mind that he prayed he was wrong about. Did he steal his parents' quirks when he was a baby? Was his toad quirk so strong because he stole his father's toad quirk, and it added to his own? Was his birth the reason his parents died? Would his parents still be alive if he had never been born? He didn't want those questions answered. Oh, right. It's scary though. Killing people is terrifying. I don't like it. I hate it so much. Sometimes you have to do it though. That's why I want you to kill me if I ever go overboard and become really evil," Naruto stated as he reached out and threw a quick attack at Momo that was faster than she could even dodge. She was shocked when she felt something change in her body, and she stepped backwards in shock when she realized he had done something to her. Momo created a small cube from her cleavage. "You didn't take my quirk?" Momo asked, since that was how he took that dead girl's quirk. "My mom's quirk was those golden chains, touching them negates other quirks, if I ever go out of control." I want you to use that quirk to kill me. Naruto gave her a sorry smile, since he was putting a lot of pressure on her. He didn't want that quirk. He used his mother's quirk to commit murder. He didn't deserve to have that quirk and keep using it. Having that quirk was also a reminder that he had stolen it from his mother, so he wanted somebody he could trust to have it instead. He could trust Momo's judgment. He felt that, and he knew that his first partner was going to be important to the future of Kurama villainy. Are you sure you should be giving me something so important? I'm Kurama. I've been fine all this time with just Toad, or poison as people think. Anyway, that quirk is the best way to stop me if I ever lose it. I need a person who can stop me if I lose my way. I want you to be that person, Momo. Naruto admitted to her with a guilty smile. Momo was starting to learn that Naruto's smiles were very different. Toad and Frog were very similar. The biggest difference was that Frog showed very little facial expressions, while Toad quirks seemed to have their owners constantly smiling a little. They were more expressive than even the average person, but most of their emotions were shown through different types of smiles. She rarely saw him without a smile because of it. You want me to kill? I don't want you to kill me, I would rather not die. If, and I repeat, if I turn into an evil monster. Do the world and me a favor and stop me. Only in that very specific situation do I need to die. In any other situation, just use that quirk to calm me down. Naruto felt the need to explain that he wanted to live just as much as anyone else. Naruto sighed to himself, before he rubbed the back of his head. Anyway, I'm still a little bummed that Mirko retired. So I've been feeling a little moody the last few days. Naruto stated as he shook himself. He needed to focus on helping Momo get into villain shape, so that she could do her villain stuff in the afternoon after she got done with her hero classes. Hero classes to train her during the day. Villain classes to train her in the afternoon. Oh, thank God, I didn't want to kill the boy I love. Momo told him as she started to practice some more with him. Will you respond to my feelings? Momo leaned to the right and dodged a straight punch. Naruto shook his head. I want to answer your feelings honestly with my own. And despite how much I flirt as Kurama, right now I'm Naruto and I need to sort out my feelings for Mirko. Gonna be honest though, I'm going to miss feeling you up when you were a hero girl. Naruto teased Momo, since now that they were partners, their game of cat and mouse had ended. He was going to get a lot less chances to tease her body the ways he had done before. Momo blushed crimson from her ears down to her chest. Well, you don't have to stop. Momo did now say that out loud. So, have you visited Mirko in the hospital? Momo asked as she took a few steps back away from Naruto, and she saw the visible regret in his eyes. He didn't. Naruto blamed himself for Mirko retiring early, since she had been beaten and humiliated so badly because she was special to him. He had seen the devastated look on her face when he showed his other quirks, and he knew what she had to have been thinking about him. He didn't know what to say to her, because anything he said would sound like an excuse. I don't want to hurt her by making excuses. Mirko is super strong. No matter how many times I beat her, she always was ready to go again. Even if she isn't a hero, she will bounce back and become something beautiful. Naruto verbalized his feelings on the matter. Momo stood still, and Naruto's fist stopped in front of her face. Go talk with her, she needs you right now. You're encouraging me to go visit your love rival, you're aware of that, right? Naruto questioned her reasoning, since Mirko was her absolute biggest competition. Mirko was one of the two people who he knew had feelings for him. It was hard not to know when she flat out confessed to it. Momo gave him a forced smile. You need to talk to her just as much as she needs you. You feel really guilty over her, and you've got unresolved feelings. I don't want to see you hurt, and her hurting is hurting you. When somebody is really important to you, it hurts you to see them hurt, and it is hurting me to see you like this. Momo told Naruto with a real dazzling smile. Naruto's eyes widened for a moment, before the tip of his nose turned a little red. Naruto reached forward and wrapped his arms around Momo, pulling her into a tight hug with his chin touching her shoulder, and hers on his. She was a tall girl, and their height difference was minimal because of it. You're special to me too, Muffin Top. Yeah, I know I am. Yowie Toad. Momo smirked when she used that one against him. She didn't forget how Naruto was naked right next to an equally naked Mirio, right in the middle of the stadium. Naruto lifted her off of her feet, and started to walk towards the edge of the water. "What are you doing?" Momo asked as she swung her feet around. Naruto had a twitching eye. "Water sure looks muddy today." Oh crap, please don't, this is a white sports bra. It will get mud stains all over it, and I'm wearing really nice panties. Okay, I won't call you Yaoi Toad again, please don't, no. 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 Momo saw the mud getting closer and closer as she kicked her legs all over the place as fast as she could. The instant regret that she felt for the creation of that nickname was absolutely real. Man, as a toad that mud looks great. Eek. Call me a bunch of stuff, but that is off the table. Naruto stated as he clapped his hands together as he looked down at a mud-covered Momo. He hadn't hesitated to throw her into the muddy water. His bro moment with Mirio over their amazing fight didn't need its memory insulted, and he personally didn't like to remember the fact that he had been naked right next to Mirio on national TV. "See you later then, I'm going to go see Mirko. Your place is closer, can I borrow your shower?" "Sure." Naruto waved off the question. He had a rabbit to visit. Mirko hated her weakness. She loved being a hero, and she hated the fact she was retired from it now. She hated so much about her situation, but she knew that if she continued to be a hero her injuries would end up killing her sooner rather than later. Even after therapy, the doctors guessed that she would only ever be able to manage to get back 1/3 of her original strength, and 1/3 would forever be the limit to how strong she could become. 1/3 of the great Mirko was still stronger than the average pro hero, but not strong enough to keep her alive against the enemies she had made over the course of her career. She couldn't get her mind off it. The Prime Minister of Japan even visited her, and gave her a Medal of Honor for her years of great hero work. Her retirement was the hot new thing on the internet in Japan, and because of that she couldn't even use the internet to take her mind off of her own situation. Pictures of her naked body were out there now too, and she kept seeing people using her naked image to Photoshop other pictures of her into naked ones with surprising accuracy. All these pictures were annoying, and not her biggest concern, but the fact that they were accurate to her real body disturbed her. She hated the people who visited her, begging her to be a hero again, taunting her with the life and job she really wanted more than anything. It was tempting, oh so tempting, to just say yes to those requests. She hated the fact that she would never capture Kurama. She hated the fact that even if she were still a hero at 100% of her potential, she would never catch Kurama. Nice weather, bun. Rumi's head whipped around and she looked at the window, and she saw Kurama sitting on the edge of the now open window. Her eyes widened in surprise at the sight of him, since even after a week this was her first time seeing him. "Kurama, this is the 21st floor. Yeah, and I'm super afraid of heights," Naruto stated with a teasing tone, and Rumi gripped her fist tightly, before she relaxed it. Gripping her fist too tightly caused her arm to pain her, and she didn't want to experience the pain. Naruto rolled into the room on his back, before flopping back to his feet. "Whoops, anyway, so how are you doing this morning?" Naruto asked Rumi as he walked over to the open door and closed it. Rumi turned her head away from him, refusing to say another word. He walked over to her and sat on her bed. "He hid his strength from me, he toyed with me for almost a year now." Rumi thought in anger, and Naruto hummed to himself. Rumi closed her eyes when she heard his humming, and she felt herself growing a lot more calm from it. She felt herself fall more and more into a hypnotic state, until she turned her head to Naruto. "What do you want, murderer?" Rumi finally asked, and she spat out that word to try and hurt him. "You've killed two, you know. It was an accident when I did it, and the villain was pushing me too hard. I didn't have a choice," Rumi shouted as she turned her head towards Naruto, and he sent her a look. "They killed a child in front of me, so I made an example of them. I too didn't have a choice but to kill them. The innocent are not to be touched is my rule. Anyway, don't pretend to be mad at the killing. You don't care about that, so stop being a little crippled bitch and tell me what's on your mind." Naruto gave her a harsh look, since she was beating around the bush and just trying to piss him off or hurt his feelings. Rumi jerked back in shock at his harsh words, and she looked down at her battered body, and she trembled a little in anger. She calmed down though, and she looked at him with narrowed eyes. Quote. They did this to me to get to you. You were a hero. Villains targeting you is something you should be able to handle. They were better than you and you lost. You've lost to me every single time we've ever fought. Naruto stated to her just as harshly. He wasn't here to be nice to her. He was here to talk with her. Quote. You're right, I was too weak. I was too weak to beat them, and I was too weak for you to ever use your full power against. Rumi lost all her anger, and she looked down at her hands in self-pity. Naruto glanced at her with a raised eyebrow, since he had no idea what would have ever given her that idea. She did realize he didn't want to kill her, right? What do you think my poison not killing you meant? My poison is deadly, so of course I held back. If this is about me stealing and using quirks, I didn't know I could do that until I got super pissed off. Naruto stated to her factually. Rumi looked at him in pure surprise at his admission, and Naruto reached out towards her and touched her forehead. He did not take her quirk. I'm not some power-hungry fool who wants to rob others of their quirks. So why would I ever use this ability on you, even if I knew about it? So, you gave up, huh? Naruto asked Rumi, and she looked away from him again. Naruto pulled out his phone and looked up some of the pictures of her. Well done. You suck. Did you come here to taunt me or make me be a hero again? Rumi asked Naruto with a glare in her eyes. Naruto pulled his mask down and turned his face to her. She was surprisingly unsurprised. So, that's what you look like, you're handsome. Rumi stated with a look that showed that while she had not figured out who he was, she wasn't all that surprised either. It was like deep down, some part of her had known for a while. That was because in her memories, part of her did know. I don't care if you become a hero again, that is your choice. You made your choice, and I'm going to respect it. There has never been a moment that I've ever had anything but respect for you, Rumi, and I respect this choice you've made. I'm here because you're throwing yourself a pity party, and you need to be encouraged. Naruto stated as he twisted so he was sitting face to face with her on her bed. Rumi huffed. So you think that you can just appear here, and magically I'll feel better? My entire life was ruined. I lost my dream, I lost my strength, I lost something I hoped for in the future. Rumi stated, and Naruto just shrugged. That shrug pissed her off. Nothing I say will change what happened to you, and I'm not going to try and make you feel better. I'm just worried about you, so I came here to talk with you. So, I want you to know if you ever need me, I'll be there for you. Naruto offered her that simply. He didn't want to try and fix all her problems, since that would seem hollow of him. He caused a few of her problems, and that would make a few of the things he wanted to do seem like he was doing it out of guilt. Rumi smirked a little, but it was weak. Quote. Everyone has been too nice to me, but you haven't been. Either people hate me for quitting, or they are too understanding. You're both harsh and kind. I hate you so much. Rumi had her smile gain some strength. Naruto scratched his cheek. That would be understandable, but I don't believe that you hate me. Anyway, I know what happened and that you can't have children of your own, and while I understand how much that sucks for you, I know a way for you to still experience being a mother. There are lots of children out there who don't have parents after all. Naruto spoke with a grin on his face. Rumi not being able to have children of her own sucked, but she was far from the only woman who had this problem. It was quite common, and he wanted to let Rumi know that she didn't have to give up on her dream of being a mother. It's not the same. I'll kick your ass if you say adopting orphans can't be just as great for a mother, and no poison, just my fists. You feel bad you can't have children, but those orphans feel bad they don't have mothers. You're not the only person in this world who is having a hard time. I'm going to help you as much as I can though. Naruto could hear running from two sources, so Naruto pulled his face mask up and turned towards the door. Naruto also looked towards the window. All Might came quickly through the door, ready for a fight. He took 3 steps into the room, before he collapsed on his face. Poison, already, well duh, I knew you and Nana were hanging around here waiting for me. So when I closed the door, I poisoned the handles. Naruto didn't need to be a genius to know they were waiting for him. He heard the sound of a woman collapsing, and saw Nana had collapsed onto the floor once she landed in the room. When he rolled onto the floor, his body touched all over the window as he rolled, poisoning quite a bit of it. So this is what it's like to be a victim to his cleverness. Nana thought as she looked at Naruto from the other end of his villain side. All for one, and one for all. I don't want anything to do with any of that. I didn't choose to have this power, unlike you two who chose to have one for all. So don't go treating me like all for one. Think about what I said, Bun Bun. Naruto waved to her, since All Might was defeated once more. How do we know we can trust you won't be like him? Just think about it, and what I've done so far. Naruto didn't feel the need to explain himself to All Might. So he left. Rumi had a lot to think about. Okay Muffin Top, watch and learn how a villain does it. Matabi. Momo corrected him, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Momo was still a hero student, and she was currently doing her internship with a real hero. She was getting hero training, though according to her it was more like how to handle and increase popularity than real training. Now she was going to be getting her villain training from him, and he was going to be the kind of teacher that would show her the ropes. The first thing to do to be a villain: commit crimes. Just watch and learn. To attract heroes I always do a crime first. So, we're going to steal the next amazing scientific discovery. Now, the first thing a villain needs is confidence. Having a song in your head helps gets you motivated and confident. Naruto stated as he took a step backwards off the top of a building. Play Achievement Hunter. Good at being bad. Momo jumped off the roof after him, and started to free fall towards the ground. Since they got to the top of the skyscraper by hitching a ride on a helicopter that was passing by, they just needed to fall to the correct floor. Momo kept her eyes on Naruto the entire time as he kept his arms crossed and fell in a rather unnaturally calm way. He reached out and touched the side of the building, and started to slow his fall down quickly as they started to approach the 54th floor. Momo created gloves covered in a highly sticky substance with her quirk and pulled it out of her cleavage. She grabbed onto the building with both of her hands, in contrast to Naruto using one hand to stick, and his foot to keep his balance. She stopped next to him, but below him enough that she needed to climb up the building. Naruto pulled a knife out of his pocket, a knife that Momo never saw him use on a hero. He created a quick circle that happened so quickly that Momo barely saw his hand move, before he flicked the glass circle and shattered only the glass that was inside of his cut circle. Naruto flipped into the building using the hole he made, and Momo climbed in after him. I've never seen you use a knife. Momo pointed out. Naruto rolled his eyes. Nobody has ever seen me commit a crime, they only discover me after I commit the crime. If they ever discovered me before I did the crime, that wouldn't be humiliating for the hero if they actually prevented the crime. Naruto stated as he started to walk forward. He pulled out his second knife and started to walk forward. He moved his left hand as he walked, and positioned his right and left hand at odd angles that Momo didn't understand. Security system, watch this. Naruto stated as stepped forward and moved his hands perfectly. He reached into his pocket and tossed a small ball on the ground. Boom! A slight layer of smoke filled the room, and Momo stepped back in shock when she saw a red light moving from one side of the room to the other. It was positioned so perfectly that it would sense anyone coming in through the window. Anyone not expecting it would for sure trip the alarm, and it was a high-tech security system. He beat it with two knives. Toads have absolute night vision, and the ability to see infrared light. All these little lights, I can see them so clearly. Since you don't have that ability, you need to always assume that less than 6 inches away from the glass there are infrared lights. Naruto walked towards the door and he moved across the room and around each of the lights like a pro. Momo followed after him and mimicked his movements the best that she could manage, and her flexibility and athletic ability allowed her to not trip any of the lights. Momo was taking mental notes, and she was appreciating this. This was Kurama performing the crimes that heroes chased him for. Nobody had ever had any recorded evidence of Kurama ever doing his crimes until he decided to make himself obvious. Kurama only got caught in the act when he wanted to be. Naruto stopped as he got to a locked door. I've got tea. Momo didn't get a chance to show off as Naruto unlocked the door with a couple of quick uses of his finger and the knife. When the door popped open, she was surprised when he put his hands in his pockets with a confident aura. Naruto pulled out his knife again and leaned it outside of the door slightly, and he looked down the halls of both sides. This hallway has a total of 3 security cameras, but 7 blind spots. Momo, follow all of my movements exactly 7 seconds after I do them. Naruto stated as he jumped out of the hallway, and she looked at him and watched as he ran down the hallway, and kicked off on the wall as he ducked behind a potted plant. Half a second later, he moved from behind the potted plant and ducked into the women's bathroom. Momo followed after him, and she could understand why he told her to wait when she noticed how quickly the cameras were moving. She kicked off of the wall and hid behind the potted plant just as the camera was about to see her, and when it passed her she ran towards the women's bathroom. That was hard. That was easy, and now we use the vent that connects the 2 bathrooms. Naruto walked over towards the vent that connected the men and women's bathrooms. He kicked open the vent, since it had no security system. This type of security fault is common these days, connecting the women and men's vent systems. Now we head into the next bathroom. Naruto told her as she watched him get down and slip into the vent. She followed him. Her butt got stuck, and her boobs dragged against the floor in an uncomfortable way. She wiggled her butt the best she could, and managed to get unstuck as Naruto dusted himself off. When she got out of the vent, she could feel his grin. "Don't say it, muffin top," Naruto stated to her, and she took a swing at him with her open palm. Naruto grinned and dodged her just as a man walked into the bathroom. The late-night janitor doing his rounds got hit by a perfectly timed powerful slap to the neck. He hit the ground. "Oh, how did you know?" Momo was shocked that he seemed to know the man was going to come through the door. Naruto grinned at her. "You think I go into these crimes blind? This janitor works nights, and he has followed the same pattern for bathroom cleaning for the past 4 days. That's why we needed to be in this bathroom," Naruto told Momo as he reached down and started to strip the man naked. Momo had a blush visible around her eyes when she saw Naruto putting on the man's clothes over his own clothes, and he unmasked himself and hid the hood of his hoodie. Naruto's face matched the man's face. The toad has a camo ability, and I make a very selective use of it. I change the color of my skin to match somebody, my eyes to match their eyes, and hair to match their hair. I can't change the shape of my bones, but at a passing glance I'm a perfect match. Naruto gestured towards the extremely faint whisker marks he had. He finished his disguise by putting the man's hat on his head, grabbing the cleaning cart and pushing it out into the hallway. "Well, get under." Naruto opened the cart and showed that there was enough room for her to squeeze and hide inside of it. Momo just nodded and got inside, hiding and honestly being taken aback by just how good at crime Naruto was. He was a true professional at the act of not getting caught in a crime, and she was just now realizing something no hero had realized. No hero had ever caught Kurama. Factually speaking, if Kurama didn't even want to get caught committing the crime, nobody would ever even know he was there. They only ever knew Kurama did the crime because he made it super obvious after he was done. Yet nobody seemed to realize that no hero had actually stopped him from breaking into wherever he wanted to break into. Heroes only ever see him use his poison touch, but when he commits crimes, he makes full use of his toad quirk in such unique ways. Momo thought in surprise when she saw Naruto casually unlock the door to an office with the janitor's key card, a more highly secured room. He walked into the room like it was nothing, and he flipped on the light switch. They were caught by security cameras, but because Naruto had been disguised as the janitor, none of that even mattered at the moment. Naruto approached a computer and turned it on, putting his mask back on and taking the janitor's clothes off. "Did you have to take his underwear?" "Yes, and before you asked." "Because it was funny." Naruto gave his reason with a grin under his mask. Naruto typed in the password, and Momo looked at him in surprise. "Another rule, scout the area beforehand. I used my camo to sneak in here and watch a scientist, and waited for the password. Never hack a computer, it nearly always leaves traces of the hack. This way, the use of the computer seems natural, and with this, all security systems in the building other than those on the roof have been shut off." Naruto explained to Momo as he leaned back in the chair, and she realized that they were in the security office. Naruto got up and walked in a laid-back fashion, with Momo following him. Like a badass, He walked out the door and over to the elevator. Now, we take a trip to the research department, and take our little prize. The blueprints to those ambush should be a good prize, Naruto stated with a grin. He wanted to prove a point, and stealing the documents behind these Anbu machines sounded like the perfect way to show Danzo that his little machines had no chance to defeat him. He was going to enjoy watching the man try to explain himself to the news on how Kurama broke into his building and stole the documents on his machines. Momo kept taking mental notes. Ding. Now, my dear Matabi, let's steal these blueprints. Later. And look, the ever-famous Eraserhead. Bravo on you being the first person to arrive here, Naruto stated as he looked at the UA teacher without a grin. Momo gulped, unsure if she had a chance to defeat the man. He looked super serious. So, Kurama has a partner now, can't say that sounds like a good thing. I thought you were a solo act. He seems so serious. I can't beat him, Momo thought as she reached into her cleavage and pulled out a bow staff. Quote. So your quirk allows you to store objects and pull them from your cleavage, unlike his quirk, I can stop that one. Eraserhead spoke as he moved towards them. Naruto grabbed Momo and pulled her out of the way, and he dodged the capture scarf without missing a beat. Momo was just stunned by how she had been effortlessly saved. Well, while he was an impressive teacher, he was still only a slightly above average pro hero with a good quirk. He wasn't really prepared for a villain who could fight and defeat him with or without their quirk. I never said that, and you better be careful, you never know when you're going to take a fall, Naruto stated. The man fell to his knees, and collapsed to his face. How? Momo shouted in shock, she didn't even see him do that. My capture tool. When you saved her, you touched it and put poison on it. When I called it back to myself, it touched me. Eraserhead could understand it though. Naruto took his goggles off of his head, and twirled them around his finger. He tucked the stolen blueprints away underneath Eraserhead's scarf. Well, Matabi, remember this for next time. Be extremely subtle even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious to the point of soundlessness. Theory you can be the director of the opponent's fate. More than that, you need to learn to appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Naruto stated as he beckoned for Momo to follow him. He tossed her Eraserhead's goggles, since they would be the first victory trophy that she would get to keep. This was her debut after all, she needed something to remember it by. He made himself look like a weak fighter for months, when he was actually strong. I'm weak, so he's telling me to make myself appear strong. Momo could understand what Naruto was saying. She also knew where he was getting it from. You're quoting Sun Tzu. Single quote. Yes, he is, but this isn't the arrogance of somebody who read Sun Tzu and idolizes him. Naruto already fought this way, he is deceptive and cunning. He analyzes his enemy, and tricks the enemy into acting how he wants them to act. He never misses a single detail, and he goes into every battle with the knowledge that he has already won. Sun Tzu never had a quirk, and could never plan around a society with them. Naruto has surpassed that man as somebody who has mastered the art of battle. Momo thought as she gulped. She now understood why Naruto was only ever highly confident. He allowed heroes to discover his crimes. He didn't fight heroes, and turned their quirks and personalities against them and never needed to throw a single punch. He accurately predicted what his opponents would do, by understanding the fact they were human and using his knowledge on them to force them to act the way he wanted them to act. Naruto showed no weakness. Naruto showed no strength other than his poison. Heroes didn't know what or how to defend themselves from Naruto, which means that his tactics could never be predicted for the very reason that he was still a mystery even after all this time. Now that there was knowledge that he could possess multiple quirks and steal them, heroes had no clue what his quirk was or what other strengths he could have. Naruto doesn't just defeat heroes. Naruto makes heroes defeat themselves. Kurama is the #1 villain. A new hero. I don't recognize this guy, Naruto thought to himself as he backflipped off of a building. Considering that Momo was at her work, studies and classes were over for the day, he was understandably confused why he was being chased by a hero he had never heard of. He hadn't even stolen anything yet, and he was such a controversy that many heroes hesitated before they even tried to fight him or capture him now. So you're the quirky villain after all. Finally, Somebody gets it. I'm not the strange, the weird, or whatever it is they want to call me. I'm the quirky villain. Naruto shouted in amazement at how finally somebody addressed him the way he wanted to be addressed. He was a strange villain that had a quirky fighting style. He was also a villain with multiple quirks, so he was very quirky. I don't care about your personal feelings over a nickname. As it stands, I'm extremely reluctant to be a hero right now. I don't know. The large fox-like figure dodged a finger that would have touched his body. They fell towards the ground, with Naruto kicking off the side wall and landing on the sidewalk. The foxman after him just landed on his feet and put a crater in the ground, and he rushed down Naruto with a good amount of speed to him. Naruto bent backwards as a fist sailed over his vision, and he reached out to touch the exposed flesh in front of him. He ended his assault though when a second tail came out of nowhere and crushed the ground he had been standing on, and Naruto landed from his jump upside down on the top of a street lamp. Two tails on a fox quirk. Weird, are we sure you're not the quirky hero or something? That's a pretty quirky power you have. Naruto grinned under his mask as he made eye contact with the man who was chasing him down. So Fox Man, do you have a red rocket under the belt or what? Ha 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 ha. Naruto jumped to the ground when Fox Man kicked the street and ripped a chunk out of the ground, before grabbing it and throwing it right at him. My name isn't Fox Man. You sure? How about Kitsune Hero, Foxy? Fox Man, you're a real sexy dude, bet your girl is super happy to have you. Naruto joked around as he dodged claw swips. Each time he tried to touch the man attacking him, but somehow the man was able to dodge each attempt to so much as lay a finger on him. Taking his finger, he swept it across his forearm and sent some of his poison flying towards the hero. He slung poison across the fox man's face. Toxic sling. Nice move, right? A good high-speed target poison, right at the eyes. Whoa. Naruto jumped back when the fox man continued to rush at him. Okay, foxes are not immune to poison. That should have. Maybe I just didn't use a high enough dose. Naruto stated when he jumped back again. His opponent was able to attack him while weaving through people like it wasn't a problem at all, and it seemed that no matter where Naruto dodged to, this man was just a few steps behind him. He was just as persistent as Mirko had been. Foxes aren't immune to poison, but it doesn't matter if you use poison, because in the end, I'm still going to be alright. The man muscled his way through the poison coursing through him. Naruto laughed for a moment. Oh, well shit, you're the kind of asshole that fucks the laws of sciences, that's a little unfair. You possess all for one, that is very unfair. To be fair, I have no clue how I got it or when. Naruto danced around multiple tail strikes. He was going to keep trying to poison this man until even this rule-breaking ability to ignore poison couldn't overcome the sheer amount of poison. Also, nice banter. It's nice to see a hero that knows the value of good banter. Naruto praised the man after him. All Right was having none of that praise. He slammed both of his feet against the ground and sped at Naruto like a bullet. I'm all right, but you're not going to be. Naruto had that moment before he was slammed into by a wall of thick muscle, and tackled through a brick wall. Then a truck. Then another brick wall. It hurt like a bitch, and he had parts of the shattered bricks on top of his body. He jumped up out of the crater he was in, and he sent a thumbs up to All Right. You're right, I've walked off getting hit by a truck before, and that hurt way more. I'm going to the hospital after this, but I just hit you with a ton of poison. Oh come on. Naruto jumped up high and landed on the roof of a short building when All Right continued to stand, and took a step towards him. That was bullshit. You don't seem to understand. You possess all for one. That means that I have to take you down. No matter how reluctant I am to hurt a decent person, I am still a hero. All Right summoned a small blue fireball above his finger. It burst into a dozen and all of them went after Naruto, but none of them hit him as he weaved through them. Kurama has been hit by a hero. This unknown hero is the first hero to ever land a blow on Kurama. Oh great, now that is going to be in the news for weeks. I'm never going to hear the end of that. You see what you did, Fox Man. Naruto was a little worried, but not about the news. Also, how are you breaking the rules? Naruto asked with a tilt of his head. The man appeared before him. I don't follow rules that stop me from doing my job. It's biology, you asshole. I just poisoned you with enough poison to kill a 100 All Mights and 2 Endeavors at the same time. That isn't simply not following rules, that is complete bullshit that you don't even seem to be affected. Naruto called out as he pointed the accusing finger at All Right. Of course, I could forgive you if you just drop and pass out. Nope. Naruto jumped off the side of the building when All Right jumped up to the top of the building after him. All Right punched Kurama. He punched him from 30 feet away. Okay, what was that? Naruto asked as he looked at All Right's fist as it was currently 30 feet away from him, and he didn't use his quirk. That wasn't even a quirk. How did you just punch my face? I hit the air. The air isn't my face. The air was between me and your face, so I just needed to punch the air hard enough for the air to hit your face. Now prepare. All Right stopped when he took a knee. The poison kicked in all the way. Finally. All Right stood up. Hehehehe. I'm in danger. Naruto laughed to himself as he rubbed the back of his head. As long as there is a villain in front of me, I'm always going to be all right, until the moment my opponent isn't. That is terrifying. Naruto quipped as he dodged a punch that hit the air, before it would have hit him. You do realize you're a hero, and saying stuff like that is super scary. Naruto asked the hero before him. All Right appeared before him. Why haven't you thrown a punch? If you don't fight back, I might accidentally kill you. I can only hold myself back for so long. Yeah, I kind of don't like fighting. I just like to steal costume parts from heroes without hurting them, and I only kill people who hurt children, and technically, you're attacking me for a very legit reason, so I'm not exactly angry. Where are you going? Naruto asked the hero. He turned and started to walk away. All for one or not, you're no threat to this world. You weren't the villain that I was told you were. I'm going to go demand to be returned back to my own world. My grandmother Nana wouldn't have wanted me to attack somebody not doing any harm after all. Quote. Oh, okay. You going to apologize for breaking my bones? Naruto asked in a deadpan tone. No, Dick, you're still a villain. A few broken bones is what you get for poisoning people. Of course. All Right vanished from view mid-sentence. The media watching was surprised when a small white-haired boy approached Kurama before them, and handed him a note. Sorry for the inconvenience, his timeline is broken and sometimes things like this happen. I'll heal you up, and then you can go about your business. I apologize for the mess up, quirky villain. Naruto's shattered bones were healed, just as he read those words. Then the boy was gone. Quote. Okay. Can somebody please explain to me what the fuck just happened, and what the fuck this day even is? Naruto was confused on all levels on what just happened. He needed to know why somebody that broke all the rules just appeared, fought him, and then left was doing here. He also needed to know where that boy just came from and went. He was so confused right now. Rumi. Huh, what? Mirko asked as she stopped looking at the TV, and looked towards her doctor as he looked at the chart in with the details of her therapy on it. She had finished most of her physical therapy, but she had some scars on her body in some places. Internal and external, and while she was strong enough to put some heroes to shame, she was no longer nearly as strong as she used to be. She only had a maximum output of 1/3 of her full strength. Your therapy is done, and I know you retired, but I urge you to reconsider. If I can't pound villains the way I used to, then I'm not going to bother at all. Anyway, the only villain worth catching is out of my reach, so what is the news other than that? Mirko asked as she crossed her arms in front of her. Naruto's rough talk with her had actually helped her get some of her backbone back. What happened to her sucked. Her future would forever be changed, but she was still alive, and she could still help people in another way. She could become a hero again, but a far less effective hero. So how is my little bun doing? Kurama. Sup. Naruto greeted the doctor with a wave of his hand, having snuck in through the window. Everyone seemed to have forgot the fact that he ran into some random hero called All Right. He had no idea what the hell that was about though. It was like time just didn't exist for the people who had witnessed that event in his life. It freaked him out on a deep level, so what better way to chill himself out than to mess with Mirko? Mirko stared at Naruto. Quote. Ah, seems that my visit is going to be cut a little short. Anyway, and that sucks, I was practicing stealing quirks and found a pedophile that had a regeneration quirk. It's too bad, it seems my idiot Bun Bun hasn't recovered enough for me to let her borrow it. Naruto grinned as he looked at Mirko, his masked face sparkling, his hand reaching out to ruffle her hair. He had nothing better to do. Anyway, it was easy to sneak into the government and locate the quirk registry, and then cross it with the criminals who had hurt children. Somewhere in a nearby city was a dead pedophile who had his quirk stolen from him, but that was a story that didn't need a lot of detail. Quote. You would give me, it doesn't seem like you're recovered though, which sucks, you're not quite the idiot Bun Bun that chased me. Oh well, so doctor, give her the bad news, she will never play the harmonica again. Naruto lamented Mirko's inability to ever play the whistle instrument again. Mirko was sending him a hope-filled look. Naruto walked towards the window. Wait just a damn second you bastard, heal me. Ah, seems you've recovered a little bit more, use that spirit and regeneration quirk to recover the rest of the way. Naruto took out a knife and tossed it at Mirko. It stabbed her in the forearm, and she yelped from the shock. She yanked it out. The wound started to heal. See ya. Naruto back flipped out of the window. Doctor, tell me how much I have to work to get back to my old strength. I don't care how much effort and pain it will take, or if it breaks my body. Mirko felt a fire ignite inside of her soul when she realized that she could use this gift to help her push through and regain her old strength. With the ability to regenerate, she might just be able to recover. Not recover. No, she would break her body and soul until the day that she had fully recovered. She would tear each and every muscle in her body until the day that she could grow back to the strength that she had once had. What just happened? With Naruto, was that the right thing to do? Momo had to ask as she followed behind Naruto, using springs to keep up with his jumps across the rooftops. She looked back at the clinic that Mirko was at, and she raised an eyebrow when she saw Naruto's grin from even under his mask. Nope, you were so harsh to her the other day though. Because she was all pathetic and mopey as shit. Anyway, she still can't have children, but at the very least I can give her back her dream. She wants to be a hero. Regeneration will not fix what she has healed from, but at the very least now she can put in the effort to grow stronger again. And once Mirko is my stupid Bun Bun again, I'll take that quirk back from her. Naruto did a flip out of excitement. She had partially given up hope of the fun chases he enjoyed with Mirko coming to an end. Anyway, we're not against heroes, we're here to be free. The ability to have fun doing what we want to do is my goal, and not having her chasing me just feels wrong. Naruto stated as he grabbed onto Momo and jumped up higher than her springs would allow her to jump. Momo tried to understand him, but she stopped trying when she realized that his reasoning would make sense to only himself. If she really wants to become a hero again, maybe one day she will have that chance, but only if she works hard enough for it. That weak, pathetic Rumi that gave up on being a hero, give up on everything, just wasn't the Bun Bun that I enjoyed. Naruto noticed a hero and allowed himself and Momo to free fall for a bit. They landed on either side of the hero. The hero was Midnight doing a patrol. And down she goes everyone. Momo bowed as Midnight collapsed from Naruto's poison, acting it up for the people as they pulled out their phones to record what was happening. Naruto just raised his hands up into the air. This is so weird, am I being a good villain? Momo thought, a nervous sweat starting to form. Naruto tossed a piece of cloth into her hands. My beautiful new comrade, Matabi everyone, and her first hero trophy, Midnight's panties, and what panties they are. Naruto called out as Momo blinked, holding up a string thong that Naruto had slipped off of Midnight right after landing next to her, the side ties of the thong undone. She blinked and looked at Naruto in surprise, since she hadn't done much to earn this victory over a hero. Momo smiled awkwardly and bowed to the people recording. She had no clue what she was supposed to say during this. Forgive her, she's still new to being a villain. Next time, she'll be a lot more entertaining, and with that, off we go. Naruto stated as he just began to walk away. A lackluster exit for a lackluster hero defeat. This was more to introduce Matabi to people in a more noticeable way than it was to do anything else. Eventually he would run her through the gauntlet that Jiraiya had run him through when he was younger, the gauntlet that trained him for how to predict how heroes would think and act. Still, it served its purpose. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.